during this period of Terminal 5 madness was upset and irate, and I guess I just took it too far. Maybe turned out to Microsoft founder Bill Gates his eye-opening apology for his relationship with convicted offender Jeffrey Epstein. In a town hall meeting with employees, Gates admitting to 2 affairs with Russian women and what he says about the photos of him in the Epstein files. And then after that, that's when they were shipped off to Epstein Island to be broken in. Jaguar Wright just exposed how Naomi Campbell is connected to Diddy, Jeffrey Epstein, and Harvey Weinstein, 3 of the worst predators, and the one person connected to them and their victims is allegedly Naomi Campbell. What was Naomi doing at Diddy parties and on Epstein's private jet? And why was her name mentioned in Epstein's Black Book? Let's find out. This is a direct character assassination. I've always said that I'm not a saint, that I am a work in progress, but I will not be held hostage by my past. What he's done is indefensible. And when I heard of what he had done, it sickened me to my stomach, just like everybody else, because I've had my fair share of predators. And thank God that I had good people around me that protected me from this. I mean, right now I stand with the victims. I can't, they're scarred for life. For life. I've rubbed shoulders with hundreds of thousands of people. The frightening conclusion here is that if the negative action of your neighbor, colleague, or even an associate can somehow make you guilty too simply by association, then we indeed live in very worrying times. This affects us all. It is wrong. It's unfair, and it must be stopped. One name that keeps cropping up again and again in the recent release of the Epstein files is Naomi Campbell. And frankly, no one is surprised. Naomi was close to Diddy and Harvey Weinstein, with some victims directly claiming that the only reason they believed these files was because they saw Naomi hanging out with them. Private flight logs show that Naomi and Epstein traveled together multiple times on his private jet, the Lolita Express. Several victims have described that would go on this jet and how they were expected to serve both Epstein and his guests while they flew on this plane. Just being named in flight logs doesn't indicate any criminal behavior, but knowing what we know now about what was happening on this jet, it is surprising to see this behavior. Epstein and Naomi Campbell were also seen together at private yacht parties. Included in the DOJ release was an interview of Ghislaine Maxwell from last year, where Ghislaine directly named Naomi and said that she went to Epstein's island and was even his friend. There are multiple pictures of Naomi partying with Epstein on her 31st birthday with her boyfriend, Italian businessman Flavio Briatore, on a yacht in the south of France. Aside from that flight, do you know him from any other thing? No. Naomi Campbell? Yes, I do know Naomi, and I knew her before I met Mr. Epstein and Mr. former President Clinton. Do you know whether Mr. Epstein separately knew Miss Campbell? I think he probably met her through me. That I imagine. And so, for those 3, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Spacey, and Miss Campbell, did they ever travel to any of Mr. Epstein's properties? The island or New Mexico? Not Mr. Tucker. Well, not to my knowledge. Mr. Tucker or Mr. Spacey Naomi Campbell may have to where she may have gone. Well, I believe she visited him in Palm Beach, and I believe she may have gone to the island, and she may have gone to see his house in New York. Whether she went to New Mexico or Paris as well, maybe they were friends or friendly. Jaguar Wright actually predicted this would happen and said that Epstein and Diddy were connected to each other through their victims. Young women trying to break into the entertainment industry are often and coerced into degrading acts. Jaguar Wright says she helped get 3 women off Jeffrey Epstein's file island. She says they auditioned to be models for music videos before they were, and kidnapped after enduring this. Wright claims they were sent to do Rick Ross music videos. We know that Epstein recruited models via multiple modeling agencies that were fronts forking. Jean-Luc Brunel, Epstein's alleged co-conspirator, ran MC2 Model Management. Rachel Chandler, Epstein's other alleged childer, provided models for Brunel's company. Chandler also ran Midland Agency, a modeling agency that allegedly was another front for child trafficking. Believe it or not, Sean Diddy Combs has ties to Chandler and has been photographed with her. There are 3 women I know right now in my life. They've been in my life for 6 years. I've been caring for them for 3 years. I got them off of Epstein Island. I cannot say where they are in the world. What I can say is when they got into the boat, they were roughed. Wow. Want to know how they ended up on Epstein Island? Yes, please. They auditioned to be models for music videos. a casting couch. When they got to Miami, they had to show and turn over their ID, and they collected their passports, and then they drugged them. And then the next thing you know, they were in a storage container getting by a bunch of weird strangers on camera who were bidding for all of the terrible things that were happening to them live online. Wow. After they made it through that, that's when they were sent to Rick Ross's music videos shoots as groupies and extras to make sure that they could walk around in society without looking like victims. And then after that, that's when they were shipped off to Epstein Island to be broken in and to be readied for Dubai and Moscow. Jaguar explained all of this years before the Epstein files ever came out, and everything she is saying is now slowly proving to be true. Even the people she named are now turning out to be involved. After Naomi's name came up in the Diddy investigation, music Jaguar Wright predicted that she was going to show up in the Epstein files too, and that's exactly what happened. The files clearly show that she met with both Epstein and Ghislaine multiple times. One email between Epstein and Naomi's manager even shows that Naomi had actually invited Epstein over to meet her. The email reads, "Dear Mr. Epstein, on behalf of Miss Campbell, we would like to invite you to her celebratory event with Dolce & Gabbana tomorrow evening in Paris from 8:30 p.m. till 10:00 p.m. at the store at 54th Avenue, Montaigne, Paris. We would love the pleasure of your company as we celebrate 25 years of Miss Campbell's career with Dolce & Gabbana people who were regulars in the Epstein crew." Like, I'm still shocked that there's nothing about Naomi Campbell really coming forward yet. I'm surprised. I'm like bitterly surprised her job. They said her name was on the list, like the most as far as like flight records. Yeah, she was on a lot of flights. A lot of flights. You mentioned also Diddy's ex-girlfriend. Hey, buddy. World. Especially this awful son wanted me to be in jail. And I'm not saying what my behavior was correct. I think that everyone during this period of Terminal 5 madness was upset and irate, and I guess I just took it too far. Maybe the most suspicious part is how Naomi's name keeps showing up in the flight logs, especially in connection with Epstein and women we now know were trafficked. One of these women is Virginia Jew. Virginia was one of the first Epstein victims to speak out, and her testimony is what got Prince Andrew eventually arrested. Virginia detailed what would go on inside the Lolita Express, and her statements have been backed up by the staff too. Almost everyone who flew on Epstein's private plane has denied ever knowing there were crimes going on aboard. This is insane because according to the victims, the staff, the guests, and even the pilots all knew exactly what was happening. They saw Epstein abusing them. And even if they didn't, how did they not think it was weird that someone convicted of abuse was flying around young women? You know, Epstein's wealth was so vast. You know, the fact that he had this fleet of planes. We've heard a lot about the Lolita Express. What happened on the Lolita Express? Everything that happened on the Lolita Express and his other planes was the same thing that happened in his bedrooms, in the massage rooms, on the beach, wherever we were. They did not stop because we're in the air. 95% of the time there was always involved. Jeffrey couldn't take a 2-hour flight without having too late. Like, that's how sick this man was. How did you live every day? How did you get on board that plane? How did you live knowing you're going off to New York or to the island or to whoever you were about to speak to? You must have been a ball of dread and anxiety. I was horrified. I was sad. I was angry. I was disgusted. I was a shell. And the only way that I could cope with what I was going through was, taking Xanax. And Xanax is like an anti-anxiety tablet, but it also, it took away that feeling of anger, sadness. It made me feel numb. It was a numbing tablet, and it helped me cope with what was going on at the time. It took a lot of people involved. It took doctors, psychiatrists, gynecologists, dentists. The worst part about the Virginia Joffer situation is how she died right before she could expose Jeffrey Epstein. Virginia was working on writing a book that had details of her when she was hit by a truck. Somehow Virginia survived, but days later she committed. It is really just a coincidence that the one person who had the most to say suddenly decided to commit literally days after miraculously surviving a devastating accident. That too, right before she could publish her book and name the abuse. We have some breaking news for you. Virginia Frey, a woman who accused both Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein of has taken her own life. Her family confirmed her death in a statement to NBC News. It reads, "It is with utterly broken hearts that we announced that Virginia passed away last night at her farm in Western Australia. She lost her life after being a lifelong victim of traffic." Virginia was a fierce warrior in the fight against. She was the light that lifted so many survivors. In the end, the toll of is so heavy that it became unbearable for Virginia to handle its weight. Miss Jeffrey alleged she was trafficked by Mr. Music Epstein to have sex with Prince Andrew as a teenager. She sued the Duke of York in August 2021, but settled out of court in 2022. Prince Andrew repeatedly denied the claims. Epstein mentioned the people closest to him in his personal journal. This special book called Epstein's Black Book is a 97-page address book containing the names and contact details of hundreds of people, which was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home around 2005 by a former employee and later leaked to the media. This book contains the details of Epstein's most trusted contacts, names, phone numbers, emails, and addresses for about 1,500 to 2,000 entries, including celebrities, royalty, business people, lawyers, and service staff. One of these trusted friends was Naomi Campbell. Details of what was written about Naomi Campbell haven't been released. However, we do know that Epstein had written down several phone numbers connected to her. Again, this doesn't prove any criminal activity by itself, but it is interesting that one of the biggesters on the planet was writing down her name next to the alleged names. Black names. Area codes. Okay. Who created this book? Epstein. This book was made by Epstein. This is a video of an FBI sting operation with Jeffrey Epstein's former house manager and an undercover FBI employee from 2009. The Palm Beach house manager, Alfredo Rodriguez, believes he is selling Epstein's address book to someone representing a lawyer of Epstein's victims. You will see a lot of important people here. He claims that the book contains contacts of powerful people, as well as Epstein's victims. So those are mostly underage girls. Those numbers, they were very young. A source familiar with the case confirmed the video shows the sting operation, which court documents show happened 2 years after the FBI demanded that Rodriguez turn over any Epstein documents. Instead, court documents say he kept the address book and tried to sell it for $50,000. How are you? In the occasionally redacted 45-minute video of the meeting, Rodriguez implicates Ghislaine Maxwell Epstein's close associate, who is now serving a 20-year sentence for track of minors. This Lane Max was his former companion, a very powerful lady from England. She would go to the former Eastern countries in Europe and find girls for everything. And I knew that because I went with my wife. Rodriguez also claims that Maxwell kept a computer database of girls, something he said he saw briefly once. What kind of pictures? Naked. Naked girls from Sweden, from Romania, from Czechoslovakia, from Brazil, from all minors, all young girls. Very young, very young. Like when you say very young, how young are you? 16, 17, the teenagers, they had races most. Rodriguez provided no evidence to support the existence of the database. Didn't count it. The video released as part of the recent trove of Epstein documents abruptly ends after the agent hands Rodriguez a bag of cash and says he will call the lawyer. Call it a coincidence, but Naomi Campbell's name was brought up in a Yang operation connected to another criminal too. Katie Noble, a British model and actress who was suing Harvey Weinstein over an alleged assault in France, mentioned seeing Oprah and Naomi Campbell at private parties hosted by him. Allegedly, Weinstein assaulted Noble and forced her to perform acts on him in front of a mirror in his room at Le Majestic Hotel in France during the Cannes Film Festival in 2014. And he was with people in which I admired dearly. He was with Naomi Campbell. He had Oprah Winfrey there with him, who entered the room and was swinging off his arm and just seemed like a very dear friend. And these like Oprah, Naomi, Rita, and Georgina, they all sat at his table. And for me, meeting Oprah was like, oh my God, like I would have thought that I would have to be someone who is established, who everyone would have had to know about before I was privileged enough to meet someone like Oprah. So that gave me so much confidence in him at the time when he approached me. I thought Jaguar said years ago that this industry is controlled by men who will do whatever it takes to corner young women. These women are promised money and fame and pressured into doing horrible things by men who claim to be untouchable. These men and music executives control the industry, and they're the only reason that men like Sean Diddy Combs and Jeffrey Epstein even have women to first place. Jaguar even detailed her own experience with the music industry and how she barely escaped abuse at the hands of these monsters. Babies, being ran around by grown men. Babies. I got offered my first record deal when I was 13 years old. I got offered another one when I was 15. I'm so grateful that my father said no. I ended up not signing a record deal until I was in my early 20s. And as young as that is, looking back now, at least I was a legal adult. Most of these girls, they getting moved around and touched around very early on. And and the people that have control of everything are untouchable. So how do you argue with that? After the party is the hotel, after... Come on. You want to know what's funny, though? Naomi Campbell is finally being... Y'all heard? Why Devil is finally being checked. Wow. Hey, I've seen something on that. Listen to me. Any woman that Mike Tyson has to put a restraining order on just needs to be checked. Laughter. Defacts? Oh, wait. Hold on. Wait. I keep telling everybody she the Ghislaine Gain. Man, I'm still trying to figure out how she pulled that off where she was able to get a white woman to go to jail for. That's the question. It's not even just that these women are targeted for. The elites are now targeting black women for their eggs and stem cells. Rumors of Hollywood using stem cells from women to stay young are finally being proven, and Epstein was the one supplying these women. Hollywood publicist Peggy Siegel even offered to bring Jeffrey Epstein a little baby back for you or two from her trip to Africa and told him it would be so Madonna. Stem cell technology that Peter and I investing in. It's called SCNT, which takes the egg of a young, perfect woman specimen, takes the egg and takes out the nucleus and puts our DNA in the nucleus. They just go ahead and take it out. Huh? And this is part of this genetic greatness that we don't see in any other race on the planet. These curvy black women from Africa. You girls have a kind of a monopoly on this genetic perfection. And we want some of that. So girls, for $100, we would pay you for your egg. So how much do you want for it? Let's bid. I bid $500. I'm prepared to God. Whoever I bid, he's going to out me. I bought about $60,000 with eggs. Yeah. If you had abortion, that's very valuable. Umbilical cord, placenta, music, even your period gut is so rich with stem cells. We regard it as waste, and it actually should be. It should be captured, just recycled, and it shouldn't go to waste. Clears throat. It's life for somebody else. It's life for mankind. Despite everything that has happened so far, the unfortunate reality is that most of the people named in these files are going to get away simply because they were too powerful to go after. These people are working in high-ranking positions in several governments. Emails show that several presidents and prime ministers were also in contact with Epstein. The names of these people are still redacted in the files, while only the victims are being exposed. How is this allowed? Most of these names aren't even new and keep coming back up every time a new is exposed. Do you think we'll ever find out the names, and do you have any idea who they are? Well, I think we know the names. I think the names have been bandied around from the beginning. I don't know, it's necessary for me to actually say them. We do know who they are. They are former presidents. They are a very mouthy lawyer who lives in Boston. We know the names. They're on the flight logs. They're in the little black book. They're the ones who've been surrounding this whole story music for we know who they are. However, are they more responsible than Ghislaine? This gets very gray area, and I am not a victim, so I'm going to see things differently. But even if they're not more responsible, if they were still a participant at times with some of these girls, shouldn't their names be made public? Okay. Well, the answer, of course, is yes to everything. Of course, everything should be public. Everything should be transparent, and all bad people should be punished. I'm all for it. This is, strings have gone on forever. This is not new. It's nothing to do with privilege and money. There been every iteration that's happened through all the years. Humans have been on the planet, probably, and this particular group was to satisfy Jeff's proclivity for underage girls, and that's the problem with the whole thing. If Jeffrey had just wanted beautiful young ladies. A big question here is how Epstein was even connected to all these people and why they are still being protected. Recently, 6 more high-profile names came out from the redacted files. These names were hidden to protect the until Ro Khanna, a U.S. congressman, publicly revealed them during a floor speech on Tuesday, following a visit to the Department of Justice where he and Thomas Massie, a Republican congressman from Kentucky, spent 2 hours reviewing unredacted documents. The 6 men named by Kanare Wexner, the Victoria's Secret founder, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayam, CEO of DP World, and an Emirati billionaire business person, and 4 others named as Nicola Caputo, Salvatore Nara, Zurab Mikoladi, and Leonik Leonov. After this reveal, Representative Anna Luna confirmed that several were actually trying to twist the narrative into claiming victim status. She recently tweeted saying, "Based on our congressional investigation, it is my professional opinion that Jeffrey Epstein was running a honeypot operation. I am calling on oversight to bring these 4 women in for questioning as co-conspirators to childicking. Jeffrey Epstein was running an intelligence gathering operation. In my professional opinion, I do believe it was a honeypot operation. And I do believe that there's a list of individuals who did engage, who were given these plea deals, and I'm going to name those individuals right now. The first one would be Leslie Grath, the second one Sarah Kellen, the third one, Nadia Marova, and the 4th one, Adriana Ross. All of these women engaged in theing of minors as adults. They were working and complicit with Jeffrey Epstein's operation. And in my opinion, they are not to be given victim status because they did partake in harming young girls. I remember seeing in some of the files, some of these girls were, as young as 10, 11 years old and older. And so obviously we have a lot of work to do, but I did want to come and give an update and let you know that President Clinton, as of right now, is cooperative and answering all of our questions. And that it leads me to believe that if we can remove the partisan nature of this investigation, we actually might be able to get justice. And so, President Bill and Hillary Clinton are currently testifying about their involvement with Epstein. Both Bill and Hillary Clinton previously claimed that they didn't even know Epstein like that and only traveled with him a bunch of times. Hillary Clinton stated that she didn't even know Jeffrey and was only friends with Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't know about you, but being friends with Ghislaine doesn't sound any better than being friends with Epstein, especially now that we know that Ghislaine was the actual mastermind. I'm Jessica Cartalia, here in Chapua, New York, where former President Bill Clinton is sitting for hours of deposition from Congress, asking him about his connection with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. We know that Clinton appeared in several different photos, him sitting in a hot tub with Epstein, also flying on Epstein's private plane multiple times. They're asking several questions about his involvement. Bill Clinton says 20 years ago, had he known what Epstein was up to, he would have turned him in himself. They also talked about a former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's testimony here. Her deposition was on Thursday. They said there was no reason that she should have been deposed as she had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein and had only met Ghislaine Maxwell a handful of times. What I knew is what I said in my statement this morning. I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell, casually as an acquaintance. It was disappointing that they refused to hold a public hearing, so I wouldn't have to be out here characterizing it for you. You could have seen it for yourself. I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times. So far, only a handful of people have had to face any sort of scrutiny over their connection to Epstein. Prince Andrew was recently arrested for his connection to Epstein and for allegedly sharing sensitive government information with him. Among the emails between Epstein and Prince Andrew included in the release is an invitation for Epstein to dine at Buckingham Palace. Epstein's offer to introduce Mountbatten Windsor to a 26-year-old Russian woman, and photos that appear to show Mountbatten Windsor kneeling over an unidentified woman lying on the floor. Well, we have some breaking news for you now. An explosive email from the Epstein files has been released, with the convicted sex offender naming then Prince Charles as being responsible for his brother Andrew losing his job. Okay, this is Big News Entertainment. Editor Peter Ford joins us. Pete, this is the first time we've seen Charles's name appear. and it is considered a really significant development. Yes, it is in amongst the hundreds, thousands of names that are dropping. This is the first time where the then Prince Charles is being referenced by Jeffrey Epstein directly. Now, to be quite honest with you, I don't think it's a bad reference. It doesn't cast Prince Charles in a bad light. In fact, some would say quite the opposite. He's replying to an associate who wrote to him. Now, this is on the very day that former Prince Andrew, stepped down as the trade envoy. Now that's Jeffrey Epstein responding to an associate. I assume he knows that this is Charles's doing. So, a couple of takeaways from that is that obviously, at that time, he was Prince Charles. Bill Gates came out yesterday and admitted that he engaged in extramarital relationships with 2 Russian women, which Epstein subsequently learned about, though he claimed that the women were not among Epstein's victims. Gates also disclosed his interactions with Epstein extended through 2014, involving air travel with Epstein and gatherings across multiple countries, including Germany, France, and the US. Turned out to Microsoft founder Bill Gates, his eye-opening apology for his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In a town hall meeting with employees, Gates admitting to 2 affairs with Russian women and what he says about the photos of him in the Epstein files. Here's Pierre Thomas. Tonight, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates revealing more damaging information about his personal life and admitting to a series of stunning lapses in judgment in building a relationship with convicted defender Jeffrey Epstein. Today, the fallout growing as Gates was pressed by employees at a Gates Foundation town hall. According to the Wall Street Journal, which revealed audio of the meeting, Gates told employees it was a huge mistake to spend time with Epstein. He acknowledged that his relationship with Epstein began after Epstein was convicted of soliciting a minor, and he claimed that he, one of the wealthiest men in the world, did not properly research Epstein's background that would have revealed his sordid past. Knowing what I know now makes it, 100 times worse. Jaguar Wright has been sounding alarms for years. Whether you agree with her or not, the bigger story is about influence, protection, and who gets shielded when scandals explode. This story is still unfolding. If you want breakdowns of the documents, the timelines, and what's verified versus what's speculation, make sure you subscribe. Drop your thoughts in the comments.